So the last 32 is still going on in the World Cup, and the midfield market is absolutely bonkers. Now, a few years ago, it wasn't that crazy to suggest that Paul Pogba will be going around the £90 million mark. We all remember the big Adidas reveal with Stormzy and how that made so much sense for a commercialised Manchester United under the Glazers with Ed Woodward. And now we're moving into a different era with Ineos, where really they haven't missed too much with any of their signings, whether it's been a Premier League proven Cunha, a Premier League proven Mbueno, and also the likes of Dorgu, who not many clubs are looking at, and also taking a bit of a premium risk on a player like Sesko, who looks like it's all going to work out. But what they may have not accounted for is an Elliot Anderson going to Man City for 130 million. And harping back to my first video, the fact that Elliot Anderson has gone for 130 million, I think tells you all you need to know about what will happen with City. And it's probably nothing, because I don't think someone of Elliot Anderson's calibre, English midfielder, goes and signs on the dotted line at Man City without assurances to either say, mate, don't worry, nothing's going to happen, or we might just get a point deduction and we finish in the bottom 8. But we'll be all right for one season. But in that time, we're rebuilding, we're signing X, Y, and Z anyway, so you'll be all right. But going more to the point, that £130 million figure, it seems that everyone's anchoring onto. And it's not the first time this happened. And this is why I'm not overly concerned about the average player in Alex Scott being worth £80 million. Brilliant player, was in the World Cup squad reserves, or the wider squad before the final cut, before Thomas Tuchel did the final cut. But if you remember Virgil van Dijk going for 75 odd million, I think it was on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, all those years ago, from Southampton to Liverpool. So then naturally, when Maguire came along and was going to move to United, the powers that be at Leicester, fair point, said, look, well, he's at least as good as Van Dijk. At the time, United were putting final pieces to what could have been the final puzzle to get a Premier League in. And actually that was meant to be the Sancho and Ronaldo and Varane transfer window as well. That didn't just quite work out. And then obviously United regressed massively. But to the point, you can see that adding £5 to £10 million on made sense to that anchor point. But the problem is that anchor point this summer in a World Cup year where Manchester United only really have two recognised first team midfielders in Bruno, who's always going to play, not in the days of Amorim, but in the days of Carrick, who's always going to play way further up the pitch, at least as a 10, if not slightly back as an 8, but he's definitely not going to be in a double pivot, right? It's not McFred. And then Kobbie Mainoo. And Kobbie Mainoo, by all accounts, is a very, very young player who United need to be very careful to not run into the ground. I hope Manchester United are going to go deep into the different stages of competitions, be it quarters, semis, maybe even finals, who knows? So Kobbie Mainoo definitely won't be enough, and that's why Manchester United have signed an Ederson. But an Ederson was always kind of your third or fourth choice when you have a Kobbie Mainoo plus two others. So United missed out on Elliot Anderson. Fine, that happens. Then we decide, okay, let's go after Matthias Fernandes. 85 million. I think Ineos did exactly the right thing there, saying, you know what, it's not even just about the transfer fee. It's about having to pay him a wage. And if you look at something called TCO, or total cost of ownership, and then you amortize that over 5 years, you start realizing you're actually eating into future budget. So even if you have the money here and now, which Manchester United most probably don't, because there hasn't been Marcus Rashford off the books. Sancho's wages have been off, fair enough, but there's not been someone who we've been able to cash into and say, you know what, that player, we're going to get £80 million in one payment. Funnily enough, what Leicester asked for. When Manchester United signed Harry Maguire, it was one payment in one go of £80 million. And that outlay could not be amortised, and United had to suffer for that from a financial perspective for a period of time. Hence why United can never fail fast. If you look up to the days of Pep, where he would get rid of a Joe Hart and bring in Claudio Bravo. Didn't work out, okay, let me bring in Ederson. United were never afforded that opportunity, not because they didn't have the money, because they couldn't spend the money fast enough because of FFP. And obviously we know FFP is super selective, where you get your Nottingham Forest, your Evertons, your Villas getting point deductions and fines and all this business, when it doesn't necessarily happen with City. But more to the point around this midfield issue is we're definitely going to see that anchorage point of everyone saying, well, if Elliot Anderson is 130 million, my player that you want is at least half as good as that player. And then you're thinking, okay, are you really saying is upwards of 60 million now for an average player? Again, coming back to Alex Scott, good player, solid Premier League player. But if we go back to the likes of who he's comparable with in terms of caliber, let's imagine back in the day you had a Nicky Butt who's on the market for sale and you want that third or fourth midfielder. So you've got your two starters, then you've got the one who comes off the bench or plays the later stages of a potentially dead rubber game in a European competition. Nicky Butt would be a very solid option and can also start if you absolutely need him to. Now, not to discredit anyone, either Nicky Butt or Alex Scott, but I think that's the caliber of signing you're looking for. And what you have to pay for that nowadays is 80 million, which is bizarre. It's out of this world. And what I worry about now with United is that the call of interest in the likes of Carlos Baleba makes a lot of sense. You have Matthias Fernandes, who obviously has gone elsewhere. Tonali was never really in the running because United said straight up, we're not paying that. But United are in real danger of sleepwalking past a World Cup when it's all said and done, because I think the best clubs are getting all their quiet work done now so people can sign on the dotted line. Your more hipster players, your Borussia Dortmund-like players from the likes of Felix Nemetcha, are they really going to do you a solid job? Again, remember, we're not talking about that Nicky Butt-esque squad pack addition. We're talking about someone to partner Kobbie Mainoo and not run Kobbie Mainoo into the ground when inevitably there's going to be injuries across the season. So then who do you go for? Now, the only thing I can think of is United are doing all their eggs in one basket and going for Tchouaméni. There's talks that he has been tracked since April and tabs have been kept. Of course, it works in a Manchester United favour that he had that incident with Freddie Valverde, but it seems that they have patched it up. But you're never openly going to go out in the market and say, guys, these lot have all fallen out and we also want 100 million for him. You'd be like, well, no, I have my leverage now, so this is what I'm offering him. Tchouaméni is not featured extensively in the World Cup currently, and I do think that is more of a style of play aspect where you just want really players just to completely sit while that crazy front three, which are interchangeable from Dembele to Mbappe to Doué. Cherki doesn't even really get a look in, what to speak of other players there as well. So I'm not worried that, okay, is he good enough? I think definitely his skills are transferable. I would love to see him in the later stages of the World Cup because I want to see what he's really made of, to see that, okay, if you're going up against a likely opposition that you'll meet in the Prem anyway, how do you get on? I want to see that. But at the same time, I'm not overly worried. What I'm more worried about is United ending up scraping the barrel here, because this is not an academy and it's also not really a position. Central midfield is not really the kind of position that you can blood a youngster into and they're 19. The same with centre back. You kind of get away with it with wing backs because they have a centre back shouting at them and they can bomb up and down. You get away with it with wingers because expression, as long as they hold their position, track back when they need to. Strikers to some degree because they're fearless. They're just there. Your job is to score a goal. You know, that doesn't really always require experience as such, just straight up raw talent and aggression. So if you look at the spine of a team, central midfield, defensive midfield, centre back and a goalkeeper, they're usually more of your experienced players. And I think, you know, Lenny Yoro, you've seen that, who came into Manchester United, all guns blazing, firing all cylinders, and has kind of had to take a bit of a step back, even when there's been injuries. Even when there's been injuries where you've had Lisandro Martinez with an ACL, when you've had De Ligt needing back surgery, he still hasn't consistently been in that squad. And your more experienced people like your Harry Maguires, understandably, have been preferred. So United cannot go into this sleepwalking. I'm reading about Santos from Chelsea. What concerns me about that is I don't think Santos is like a long-term target that Manchester United have been chasing. I think they've probably gone into their black book, their little Rolodex, and they've figured out, well, what is a kind of player profile who would fit within the reasonable cost for around 50 million, not forgetting that 5-6 years ago, 50 million got you Fred. So these levels here and the inflated transfer market, I don't think it'll be forever. I think it is an anomaly with World Cup year. But I would be concerned. I really would be concerned. So I'll leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts. We're going to do a preview on the last 16 because these games flow thick and fast and I want to get in there. So yeah, let me know what you reckon and we'll catch you on the Wednesday for the last 16 preview.